Rouen, France, 1431. In a cold courtroom, a teenager stands alone. Her judges are bishops, abbots, and lawyers draped in robes of authority. Her crime, witchcraft, heresy, and the sin of wearing men's clothes. But her true crime was victory. Less than 2 years earlier, she was an illiterate peasant from a forgotten village. Then she stepped onto the stage of history, claiming to hear the voice of God. She rallied a broken army, lifted the English siege of Orleans, and led a reluctant prince to Reims, where he was crowned king. But who was Joan of Arc? A saint and messenger of God? A brilliant but deluded visionary? Or a pawn discarded when she became too powerful? Behind the official story lies a darker one: political conspiracy, psychological mystery, and a trial designed to destroy a legend. To understand Joan, we must first see the kingdom she was born into. France in the early 15th century was not a nation but a wound. The 100 Years' War had ravaged it for generations. By the 1420s, France seemed doomed. The English under Henry V had crushed French armies, most famously at Agincourt. Paris and vast northern lands lay under English control. Even worse, civil war divided the French themselves. The Duke of Burgundy allied with England, turning the conflict into a fratricidal struggle. The figurehead of resistance was the Dauphin Charles, son of the late king. But his claim to the throne was discredited by his own mother, Queen Isabeau, who signed the Treaty of Troyes, declaring him illegitimate and recognizing the English heir. Charles ruled from Bourges, mocked as the King of Bourges, insecure, penniless, and surrounded by squabbling nobles. His cause seemed hopeless. Amid despair, prophecy offered hope. A saying attributed to Merlin foretold that France, ruined by a woman, would be saved by a virgin from Lorraine. The woman was easily identified as Queen Isabeau. But who was the virgin? For many, she was a desperate prayer. On the frontier of Lorraine lay Joan's village, Domremy. Life there was marked by raids, fire, and fear. Joan grew up amid war, not cloistered peace. She was exceptionally pious, but her faith was fused with patriotism. She prayed not only for souls but for France itself. At 13, she claimed to hear voices in her father's garden. A brilliant light, a noble voice, later identified as Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret. These figures became her counselors. Their mission for her was precise: go to the fortress of Vaucouleurs, win an escort, seek the Dauphin, lift the siege of Orleans, and lead him to Reims for coronation. Unlike most mystics, Joan's visions were strategic and political. She claimed God had chosen her to be his general. Whether divine or psychological, her certainty was absolute. Soldiers described her as courageous and practical, never mad. Her belief inspired others, cutting through despair with unshakable conviction. At 16, she approached Robert de Baudricourt, captain of Vaucouleurs, demanding an escort. He laughed her off, advising her father to whip her. But Joan persisted. She predicted a French defeat near Orleans before news arrived, the Battle of the Herrings. When the prophecy proved true, Baudricourt relented. He gave her a horse, armor, and an escort. Joan cut her hair, donned men's clothing, and began her perilous journey across enemy-held France. For 11 days she and her small band rode by night, avoiding roads, braving rivers, and slipping past soldiers. Despite fearsome dangers, she showed no fear. She led, rather than followed. At last, she reached Chinon, the Dauphin's court. Here, suspicion awaited. Was she a fraud, a witch, or an English trick? To test her, Charles hid among courtiers. Joan walked into the crowded hall and, without hesitation, knelt before the disguised prince. "God give you life, gentle Dauphin," she said. Charles tried to deny it, but Joan insisted. She had found him. She then spoke with him privately, revealing a secret that restored his faith. Historians believe she addressed his deepest fear, that he was illegitimate. Whatever she said, it convinced him. The insecure Dauphin emerged with renewed confidence. the peasant girl had passed her first test. Joan's journey from Domremy to Chinon was more than a march across France. It was the transformation of a village girl into a commander, a visionary into a leader who carried the fate of a kingdom. Whether saint, visionary, or pawn, Joan of Arc was a force the world could not ignore.